issues that we are seeing contribute to this. So one of them is deportation and immigration. There's just no question. If you ask people, especially issue by issue, what they approve most of Trump, even within immigration, it's about, quote, border security, and it's about the drop off in the number of border crossings. But when you start to get into El Salvador, and specifically the Abrego Garcia case, you start to see this 2772 stuff begin to show up. Same on the young men, that you flagged. The reason why I think that one is more important is that young men and young women right now, and we're going to get to this in a little bit, are facing a absolutely devastating economic situation where you have high interest rates and now you have a frozen economy, especially at a hiring level. So one of the things that I have heard privately from so many people who work in the Fortune 500 is we have a de facto hiring freeze across the entire company. That's really devastating because it's April 24th, as you and I are recording this right now, which means 2-3 weeks from now, we have so many kids who are graduating from college and graduating from high school. Well, that's exactly when you enter the job market. I mean, this is basically akin to graduating in 2009. And so now they really are facing a frozen employment and or lower wages, maybe less bonuses, which means that you're going to have less money, less earning power, and you still face a very high cost of living in many of these different places. So that type of economic precarity, I think, is really starting to set in for a lot of the younger guys, in particular, who saw a lot of dissatisfaction, with Biden and felt like their concerns weren't being looked at. And I think in this particular case, they're beginning to see the exact same thing. Same with the stocks. I mean, we've talked about this. It's funny to make fun of, it's funny to talk about, crypto. What did Kamala say? She was like, crypto is a blackmail issue or something. But I do think it's undeniable that it is something that young people look at. We got a cattail there in our view. It's undeniable that their younger guys in particular, if we look at the Robin Hood phenomenon and things like that, are paying attention, if not and or equity owners. And you've seen massive, correction in the stock market, almost down by 15, 16% from the all-time high in November after Trump was elected. So there is just no question that there has been both a shift in terms of, quote, the vibe, which, we warned about at the time, so you can live and die by it. But really, at a material level, you're seeing the reduction. People can see the writing on the wall, and they're beginning to express their dissatisfaction.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. And I just think about the experience of millennials graduating into the Great Recession and the way that combined with the Iraq War shaped the politics of the millennial generation. Millennials are, one of the most left-wing generations in American history. I think Gen Z was really up for grabs. And I would say, my sense of this generation is they're not enamored with either party. Let's be honest. Democrats have a lot of work to do if they're going to affirmatively win over young men, because it's one thing for young men to say, this Trump thing, this isn't really working out the way that I wanted it to. It's another thing to say okay, but this other party is offering something that is superior and that, is appealing to me and my life. And I think is going to, sorry, the cat almost fell, is going to actually improve my material circumstance. So, this is far from a victory done deal for Democrats, but it just shows you, Sagar, these groups are up for grabs.
Yes.
Right. People are not automatized. There are people who are highly polarized and they're voting for Trump. It doesn't matter what he does, or voting for the Republicans or voting for the Democrats, no matter what, come hell or high water. But I think one of the major failures of political scientists over the past, since I've been following politics, has been to underestimate how much people genuinely can shift over, one election cycle, 2 election cycles, a couple of presidential terms. It is remarkable. And so I think with Latinos, they felt like, okay, I was doing better economically in the first Trump administration. Let's give this guy another shot. We'd seen the numbers creeping up. We'd seen this sort of realignment in general where non-college educated voters, because of cultural issues as well as this sense that Trump's the businessman and will do better economically, had been shifting along ideological lines. But none of that is set in stone. All of it can be unraveled. And so for Democrats, the nightmare scenario was always that, okay, you're going to lose the young generation, and you're going to lose, if you continue to lose working class voters, non-college educated voters across demographic groups, and you really have this full realignment, you're done. You're a permanent minority party. And so Trump has created an opportunity, with the trade war in particular, where unlike the Great Recession, where sort of both parties had some blood on their hands in terms of creating that economic climate, and there was some bipartisan blame to go around, et cetera. With this, man, it's really clear cut. If you're graduating high school, if you're graduating college into this climate, you know exactly where to lay the blame at this point.
Yes.
And, we can put up some of these additional numbers from Pew Research that just shows the way that his numbers are declining on issues across the board. So even on his best issue, which is immigration, even there, he is underwater on the question of make good decisions about immigration policy. And that's his strongest one. Then you've got, negotiate favorable trade agreements, not doing well, handle public health emergency, God forbid, make good decisions about economic policy. He's 10 points underwater on that. I mean, these are extraordinary things for Trump, where economics has always been his strong suit. And make good decisions about foreign policy. We'll talk more about that in the Ukraine bloc, but he's significantly underwater there as well. And then on just basic competence, we can put the next piece up on the screen. You can see the different demographic groups, and their headline here is his approval rating is underwater among most groups. Basically, only Republicans and Trump voters are the ones who remain largely positive. And this is where you can see, that number with regard to Hispanics. You can see where Black voters are. You can see where men are, where women are, where each age group is. The age group that he continues to do the best with is basically like Gen X, rather, I guess. But even there, he is still underwater. So, there's a lot. I mean, I wouldn't even say warning signs at this point. It's just really clear that the trade war in particular has been devastating for him. And even on the issues where he was previously strongest, which would certainly be immigration, because of the way that he has, the way he's gone about this, and then just like undeniably awful and cruel, and also due process undermining direction that he has taken. Even there, people are saying, you know what, this is not what I want.
Yes, exactly. And look, I mean, I think it really comes down to chaos and process. And this is where having people who are competent and smart matters, in not doing things. I mean, we're going to talk about this ICE thing later on. It's like they just lie. Like they just lie about stuff. They make things that they have no confidence in the process. And then going forward, can any serious person who is defending any of this really come back and say, well, the government says? It's like, that's a joke, right? And it's one where it tells you that many people who are casual observers and may even support these things in principle have very little confidence and faith in the credibility of what the president and the administration says. From immigration and trade, which again are two issues where he usually does pretty well. I do want to highlight this B4 up on the screen. This was a huge recession indicator to me, is quote, the competition to get into law school right now is brutal. It's the exact same thing that happened in 2009. I'm comparing it also to Georgetown University here in Washington, which has received literally more applications ever than in its entire existence just this year. Number of applications also to the other 200 law schools up by over 20%. The reason why is that a lot of students facing the job market that I just described say, well, maybe I'll just go into law school for 3 years and hope that things are better. I would definitely caution a lot of people to do that with the rise of AI and with $200,000 in debt that you might have on your sheet. But that was one where just looking at that, I was like, there's something going on here. And it's very clear about the lack of faith that people have in the job market, especially for people who are credentialed graduating from college. You also found this. This is amazing. This is an old school BuzzFeed style article, which now has recession indicators that people are noticing. Look, it's not 100% serious, but it is actually really funny. So they put together these 23 subtle ones. One was $5 blackjack tables at the Aria in Las Vegas, plumbers showing up on time, Italian sandwich shops in prime locations struggling, more students in the master's and PhD programs in law school, companies moving overseas, real estate ghost towns, a lack of Botox, empty strip clubs, Big lottery jackpots.
That's got to be a big one, the empty strip clubs.
Yeah, they made that whole movie about it. Hustlers, that the J-Lo movie. It's actually a great movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about 2009. Big lottery jackpots, fixer cars on Facebook, used guitar surplus, home-cooked lunches, owner-sold cars, a lack of work injuries, availability at the vet,